Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Show number 2 here on the Supernatural Strength channel with Travis the Beast Bagent. I'll tell you what, guys, if you haven't seen the first episode, I'm going to put the link in the description. Make sure you get back, check that out, because I learned a lot. That was some good stuff. I'm going to continue on a similar theme there. Travis, obviously, as we walk this through, we'll find out a lot more about how that's changed you and shaped you as a person. But obviously you spoke about your dad, and he was obviously an extremely powerful guy, someone that was very interested in strength, but you didn't have a closeness, a relationship with in your early days. When you got that relationship with your dad, was there a sort of sense of relief there? Do you feel like subconsciously you'd been chasing that relationship a lot through strength? Or do you think that you would have, because of the DNA thing, do you think that it was naturally in you anyway? When you first looked at the arm wrestling table, did you feel drawn towards it? And do you think you would have done without your dad's involvement? Do you think you've got the sort of strength gene in you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I don't know the answer to that, honestly. But one thing I have been good at is to kind of look at both sides. So there's a chance that if I would have had a relationship with my dad, I may have resented some of the things that he did, because he really wasn't a great partner for my mom. I won't, you know what I mean? Like if they would have been together, and then those kids would have came and it would have torn up this marriage, and it would have been this turbulent thing where I lived with him and my mom, and they were breaking up and there was fighting, and I had to decide who to live with. So my dad got a pass because I didn't know anything, that ever kind of transpired there. So I was searching for a relationship with him, I believe. It's probably the most important thing about the whole story, right? But it was also a little subconsciously, because I was super happy too with just being an athlete, playing football, basketball, baseball. And my mom did a great job, and she never held me back. But for some reason, it was always important at the lunchroom to be pretty good at arm wrestling, or at least as good as I could be. So, I don't know. I mean, I'd imagine that it's probably, the psychiatrist would say that it was the 100% driving factor that, but we all try to expose ourselves and our loved ones to as many things as possible. And then sometimes they catch on to something, and then that's what they want to do, So I think that I wanted a relationship with my dad, so I was willing to work really hard at the club, and the club highlighted arm wrestling. Yeah. So probably being the best arm wrestler in that building, my dad would probably pick him on his team first, regardless of any other characteristics you had. So, it's probably undeniable that, that relationship drove me to try to get really good at it. And then once I got really good at it, I wasn't afraid, because it was his thing. I wasn't afraid to fail at arm wrestling. So I think it exposed me right away, all the way to the tip top. Like, there's guys on the East Coast I would talk to that had never arm wrestled John Brzenk or been out West, but these are really good arm wrestlers. You know what I mean? It's because John's relationship with the East Coast arm wrestling and the AAA wasn't the best. So he spent more of his time out West, unless there was some money on the East Coast and it was ran by somebody other than the typical powers. So, but for me, like, I want to know who this John Brzenk is. So I arm wrestled John Brzenk when I was 23 years old. And I arm wrestled when I was 24, when I was 25, when I was 26, every year, because I traveled and went, and I didn't mind. And I could tell that my dad did care. My dad would rather work out a schedule like Michael Todd, where you pull 3 times a decade, you know what I mean, under very specific conditions, and it means the world to you that day. You know what I mean? Like, I've been a lot of places where it's this person's the most important day in their life,
Yeah.
And for me, it's like Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just here. So I didn't mind searching and finding out where I was at, where I think that a lot of arm wrestlers, once they kind of know how good other people are, they kind of stick to their little thing, So It was good for me because once I met John Brzenk and lost to John Brzenk, I came home and I had a lot less respect for the Junior Hostlers and R.D. Ebeling and Dave Pattons of the world. Not respect when it comes to like from man to man, but just your arm wrestling skills. Like that guy's different than you guys. And I don't want to be like you guys. I want to be like him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run over you guys in search of this other level that I don't even know. Like a lot of new arm wrestlers, it takes them a long time to realize the level.
Yeah, it really does.
Unless they're lucky enough geographically to be around the level, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes the level's right down the street, right? Mm-hmm. Like Kevin Bongar was lucky that the level was right here. So now you know the level, you start working at it, and all of a sudden you just skip over other guys' preconceived levels.
Yeah, he's won 3 world championships, but never a state championship in the 90 kilos.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what, there's guys like that, once you find the guy who's the man, you can get really good just because that's what you're shooting for. It's like, you don't understand that Dave Patton's work ethic is abnormal, that if you went down somewhere else and started arm wrestling, it would take you a long time to figure out that this is what this guy's doing, because he's just killing your guys, right? But there's whoever the best guy is at practice is always the one who everyone thinks works the hardest, but it's it's not always the truth, right? Like the guy who works the hardest, he doesn't live near you, he lives on the other side of the country. Mm-hmm. And some people like Bob Brown go and seek that out, right, to find out like where the level is. So I was good at that. Even at a young age, I didn't mind trying to see what would happen. And then what ends up happening is you find yourself at 21 years old at the GNC Show of Strength in New York. No one knows who you are, and you crack Dave Randall, then you crack Marcio, then you crack Ron Bath, all in a row. And everybody, and then they do the interview at the end, and they're like, they asked John Brzenk, who do you think's going to win the heavyweights? He's like, that kid from West Virginia is going to win because he's killing these guys. Yeah. And it was all because I had been there and seen, what I needed to do. And, you can only win if you put your name in the, on the list, you know what I mean? And it takes a lot of confidence and to put your name out there. Like, I understand why good arm wrestlers live in the same town and never arm wrestle each other in a competition. Mm-hmm. It's because they don't want to, right? One of them knows that the other one's going to beat him, and he doesn't want to lose in front of people that know him. They'd rather lose in front of people that don't know him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
was there ever any pressure there, Travis? Obviously, I think my first introduction to seeing you pull and being impressed with you pulling straight off the bat was, I think it was Virginia Beach, and I'm going to say 2000 at the World Championships. And I think I said to you that day, mega good pulling, mate, bad mother. And you didn't win that day, but you were aggressive pursuit of it. You were good.
Yeah, I finished third left-handed, and I actually was in the winner's bracket undefeated. That's another thing. Like, I got really lucky early because, bracket arm wrestling is luck. Mm-hmm. I mean, you never know who you're going to meet up with.
Especially at that level. Because
and it's not because you meet the guy who's a lot better than you early. You meet the guy that's just as good as you early. That's the problem with tournament arm wrestling.
I know for a fact in my career that my world titles, I know that on at least 2 separate occasions, I ended up with second or third place when I was stronger than I got the gold. I know for a fact. But what happened with I'm in a friggin' 2-minute match with Yoshi Kanai in round 1, and then I foul out of one of them, and I end up in the B side, and I'm absolutely blown to bits. I get Andreas Rundstrom in round 2, and I'm in another screaming, So even when you come through that match, you've got wear and tear on your arm like a mother. So you're going up the bracket. It's nuts. There's no, like you say, it's like the Grand National. You got to get over the hurdles. It's not easy.
Yeah, and I've seen it too. I've seen guys get good brackets, have success, and let it go to their head. And everybody's like, "Oh man, he shouldn't let that go to his head." Well, yes, he should. He should let that go to his head. He should expect that, so that the next time, maybe he may not get that bracket, but he's not thinking, "Oh my God, because I got this bad bracket, I can't win." He's Adam Wilmot. Adam Wilmot created an entire career after getting a good bracket, having a couple good starts, and then boom, all of a sudden, you can't tell Adam Wilmot he's not the man, right? And that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good thing.
Whatever confidence builder.
Whatever, like that's what the best. Let's talk about tournament arm wrestling. Tournament arm wrestling is it creates hope, right? It creates hope because things happen that if we ran a 50-mile marathon each time, we would always have the same winner. Let's create a few little tricks and turns and situations where, maybe this guy can do it. Maybe this can happen. Let's, so to me, it's a great situation. So, pressure. I think that the original question was.
What I was getting at there really. I'll tell you where I was going with it, mate. It's because that I've always been a big believer in any athlete is much more dangerous if their desire to win outweighs their fear of losing. And I often find, or I've often seen, particularly in combat sport, alpha male dominated sport, whether it be strongman, fighting, all the sports that I've been around, you see, I've been fortunate enough to be really up close and personal to some excellent athletes in those disciplines. And often the guys that are at the peak in the ascendancy, they are two different things. The guy in the ascendancy, he's got, blood on his fangs. He's chasing and he doesn't give it. He's not got there yet. So he's not too worried about them. He's just 100% focused on the hunt. Now that guy at the top, the guy who's already reached the peak, he's always over the shoulder, and it can become self-destructive, really problematic. The things that I'll teach my sons is never be frightened of losing. It's just a loss. If I can get that into it, whether I'll be successful in that, I don't know. I wasn't that guy. I had periods in my career where I beat myself because I was concerned about losing. And I realized how detrimental that is. You got to get past that and just go flat out. Always be the guy with the blood on your fangs. Go for it, 110%. And I think if you can encapsulate that, you're a far more lethal proposition for anyone. If you've got the skills, if you've got the ability, then you can really succeed. And I'm interested to understand your psyche on that, whether there was ever anything there or whether you just cut from an entirely different cloth and you don't know any fear up there, or you compartmentalized it differently.
Yeah, well, here's the truth. The truth is that every athlete has to make that decision on how far are you going to push yourself. And let me tell you something, you got to really think about it, or at least I do. I always want to self-evaluate. I always want to think about, like, what are you doing? Like, seriously. And why are you doing it, right? And are you going to be able to sustain it, right? And if you can't sustain it, know it now so that you're not so upset if it come to find out that you sustained it sometimes, created this amazing situation, but didn't feel, or for whatever reason, didn't have enough work ethic to keep it like every single peak all the time. So here's what I've done. I have made commitments in my life, small commitments, right? When I say a small commitment, I think that we both have probably been here where we lost 20 pounds, right? And it was a beast. I mean, people can talk all they want about, I'd rather try to get strong than try to lose weight. Okay? Yeah. It is horrible, right? But there have been small times in my life. years, months, weeks where I have really taken it serious, right? And I have taken arm wrestling serious a few dozen times where I have dedicated a year, a 2-year, a 6-month, a training camp, whatever it is that I've decided to really, really get ready and show these people the very best human being that I could possibly be at this point. And I've maybe tried to do it 20 times, and it's only been successful 12 times.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about a lesson learned there. Oh, there's nothing worse than working as hard as you can and not being successful. That's a tough pill. That pill is so tough to swallow that people don't ever do it. They always go halfway, but they got that built-in excuse. You know. So here's what I did in 2001-ish, late 2001. I am headed to the national championships where I am about to win my third or fourth national title, left and right-handed at the AAA Nationals. I am 245 pounds, 246 or whatever, and I'm going to go there. I'm going to lose to 242. I'm going to win the left-handed easy, right? So I do that on Friday night, right? That's the way the AAA Nationals is held. I weigh in at 242, and I go Friday night. I pull left-handed, and I won easy, right? I'd already gotten real nice at this point left-handed. And Cleve Dean wins the left-handed super heavies. Now, Cleve is not the normal Cleve, right? Really not that. He's older, right?
Yeah, couldn't move, lost, yeah.
Not the guy, right? He's not. And later on that night, we both win, and we get on the elevator to go upstairs, and he says, "Oh, you're that fella that talks a lot," right? And here's what the deal was. The deal was Cleve Dean got the story from Karen Bean, Dave Randall, Ron Bath, that this very smart aleck kid is yelling and screaming, and he's not shaking hands. He's doing everything that we don't do here in the South when it comes to the sport of gentleman arm wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Thinks his britches are too big. Now, listen, this is all hypothetical. This is what I think happened, right? Because I don't know why Cleve would say this, right? Except it was true, right? It was definitely true, everything he was saying from his perspective, right? I get it. And I say, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Yeah, that's me. I apologize." I said, but at least I was nice enough to lose 3 pounds earlier, because I could have whacked y'all too, right? I could have whacked y'all, right? And the only reason I said it is because there were also a lot of arm wrestlers in the elevator that would expect me to say that, right? But I shouldn't say it to Cleve Dean, especially when I haven't got friendly enough with him yet, and he's there to teach me a lesson. But that's the kind of human being I am.
What was his reaction? Did he laugh?
No, he did not laugh. He did not laugh. He did not laugh. And he looked at his wife and he said, "Oh, I guess they was right." He said, "Well, young fella, there's always tomorrow." I said, "You right." I said, "You know what? You are right, because the 242s is boring to me. So no problem." So the next day, I sign up for the super heavyweights. And it's me, Cleve Dean, and Dave Randall. That's the big three. There's some other bums in there, but whatever. So we get to where it's me and Cleve Dean on one side, Dave Randall, someone on the bottom side, ready, go. Boom! There goes Cleve. He's out, right? I crushed him, which he wasn't even that, he wasn't the guy, right? Cleve Dean would have beat that version of Travis Bagent. And listen, quite frankly, Cleve Dean may have beat any version of Travis Bagent for all I know, right? I mean, I heard he was pretty amazing, and I'm all about hand control. Maybe that would have been a tough task probably back in the day, because the
Maybe.
guys who were successful kind of got a hold of his arm. That wasn't going to be me, so I probably would have been in trouble, right? My dad says I couldn't beat Mo Baker, him, or Cleve Dean ever my whole life. And I tell him he better hope this guy in this poster don't come out of that poster, because if this guy comes out of this poster, he can beat all them dudes. But whatever.
Yeah.
So,
on your day, on your best day, you're harmful.
Yeah, I don't know about Cleve, but I know Mo Baker and Jerry Boyd. They don't want none of the beast. That's for sure. So Dave. So then I go pull Dave Randall, and Dave Randall and Cleve Dean. A lot of respect there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I probably would have. Dave was madder at me for saying that to Cleve than Cleve was.
Yeah,
I
can imagine.
And especially by the time it got back to Dave, right? So, and Dave Randall is, listen, I love that human being, okay? Because of that man, I am who I am, right? Like, he was my first, like, oh, yeah? Oh, okay. I'm going to change me because of you. And that, he's the first person that did that to me. So, and it was because he was very mean, aggressive, and he is the worst cheater I have ever seen in my life. He totally had taken that set grip, that put your hands down, and then as soon as they would put his hand down, he'd come running in there. Before you know it, you're looking at his back. Right? And the pushing was so crazy. He would push you over so that he could just drop. I mean, it was just like you couldn't do it, right?
Put on it.
So I get up there, the referee goes through the situation, I lose. I mean, I don't even get to do anything. He just completely kills me. Right now, Dave Randall's at the top of his game. #1 arm wrestler in the United States at this time. He's not losing to anybody except maybe an awesome John Brzezinski, right? But he's not losing to Carteret. He's just drilling Carteret. You know what I mean? Just boom, like he ain't there. He's beating everybody, right? He's the best guy. And he did that to me. Then I go back down and I get in there with Cleve again. And ready, go, boom! I drill Cleve again. I give him the whole thing. So Cleve wobbles, off the stage. Poor guy, you know what I mean? God rest his soul, and all that. But I don't know him, right? I don't know him that well, and he was very mean to me. Very mean to me for like the first 3 years of my life when I met him. Well, that even infuriates Dave even more. So now I go back to the finals, right? And I'm telling the ref, I'm like, my goodness, can you please square this guy up? Not let him be on ready, go, same thing. It's just, and this time he grabs the back of my head and he says, "Who's your daddy?" And I tried to get away from him, but I can't get away from him. I can't get away from him by just pulling away. And he's being real mean. And he grabs, "Who's your daddy?" I was like, all right, no problem. All right. So I left that day. That was Atlanta, 2001, something like that. Or no, 2002. So fast forward, now we're at the 2002. It's still 2002, but it's late summer, and we're at the GNC Show of Strength. 7 months later, 6 months later. Well, I'm not 242 pounds anymore. I'm 267 pounds. And it's a scene in Pulling John. I walk in, I look at the bracket. I see my side of the bracket. It's pretty good. Matt Gerdner, who was not that good at that time, pretty good, but still not
coming
on
up on the rise.
Matt Gerdner was not on my radar at that point, but he was awful red and motherfucking jacked, right? And I see him and Dave Randall at the bottom. So I'm in good shape. I'm going to the finals unscathed, and I'm going to watch Dave Randall probably beat Matt Gerdner, right? Well, lo and behold, I'm the winners bracket champion here, or I get to the winners bracket championship, and here comes Dave and Matt. Ready, go. Dave totally does what he does to me, overwhelms him, cheats him, false starts him, crushes him. But Matt is pissed about it. I mean, he's arguing with Karen Bean and rah, rah, rah. So now it's the stage set for me and Dave Randall. I have never wanted something more in my life than to make this thing work that I had been working on, with him diving in there and me being in a position, and I worked on it, man. I got Barry Hurst over here and we're just working and working and working, and Barry's trying to change my game up. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to arm wrestle like it. He says, you have to. If you fall backwards 1 centimeter, he's going to put his shoulder right where your right shoulder was. You cannot move it, right? So I backed my back up to this rack to make sure there was a barbell touching my shoulders, and I arm wrestled side pressure, and I arm wrestled like that, but I never moved, right? And they said go, and I couldn't even feel Dave Randall. It was a perfect his momentum coming forward, just like Jerry Cadorette. If you can hit it right, they'll pin themselves, right? Boom! Well, then they go back to the losers bracket. Dave and Matt have a way more setup problem, and old Matt catches him at the bottom about a half an inch, holds him for 3 seconds, and then loses. Matt goes absolutely apeshit about Dave touching, fouling, or something. I mean, Matt is red, Matt. And I kind of looked at Matt right there, and I was like, you know what? This gorilla just started training 6 months ago. Yeah. If 2 things are going to happen, one of 2 things are going to happen. He's going to go back to the normal guy with the regular skin color and a 230-pound man, or he's going to not stop. And he's going to be dangerous 18 months from now. And it ended up being that way.
Oh, did it?
It did. It fucking did. So I get back up there with Dave Randall, and once again, ready to go, no problem. I kill him, right? Well, I was thinking to myself, wow, like, I really am a bad dude. Like, I'm the best guy in the United States right now because John Brzezink's not of this earth. Right? Like, you can categorize yourself. Dude. You can be the best guy in the country and not be able to beat John. That's okay. Right? And that's what I was. Right? I was the guy who, because I wasn't in John's class. Hey, John's the 220 champ, not the super, but he was the super champ, but it didn't matter. I'm the champ. Well, then I go to the side table with Matt Gerdner and Dave Randall. And right. And Dave's like, well, man, let me grab this thing. So I let Dave put his shoulder on top of my arm, and I just eased right through it. Ooh. And he looked at me, and I'm like, ooh. And he's like, yeah, buddy, that's different. And Matt Gerdner got up there, and he put me in that hook, and I just eased him on down. And I looked at Casey, and I knew, right? I was like, because I knew that I had gotten ready for the first time. I am ready. Yeah. I was not going to let this guy grab me by the back of my head again. And what I figured out is, I done overtrained. Like, I could have beat this guy 3 months ago sitting on the couch, right? Like, I am ready. Well, I go home. I'm seated. I'm sitting there for 10 days, and Dave Voevoda calls me. He says, hey, there's a Russian guy that they say no one can beat. I think you can beat him. I'm like, well, get out of here. Where's he at? He's like, well, he'll be at the World Championships in Ottawa in 3 weeks, 6 weeks. I'm like, really? I said, well, dude, I went to the Nationals and I won both hands, but I didn't send any money in, and I'm not a part of the team, and I'm not, going to Ottawa for a week. They said, I'll give you $2,500 and pay for your airfare and hotel, or pay for your hotel, or pay for your travel. And I'm like, I'm in. He said, you can't pull left-handed, though. They've already got 2 guys, Christian Benny and someone else. But there's a right-handed slot, and you can arm wrestle for the U.S. team. And I'm like, all right, no problem. I would have won left-handed in Ottawa. I'll guarantee you that I would have won left-handed in Ottawa. I would have beat Ryan Espy and Christian Benny, no problem. But I could only arm wrestle right-handed. But the fact is that tournament that I wasn't going to go to was probably the single most important thing that ever happened in my career. One of them, at least, was going to that tournament, thanks to David.
Because of the Paul and John thing as well.
and because of Alexey, right? Now, listen, I didn't even know this human being existed.
Really?
I did not know who he existed at this point.
Wow. Okay.
I get to the tournament on a Tuesday morning. Me, Mike Slayers, and Christian Benny, I drive to New York, and then we drive to Ottawa in the snow. It was terrible. In Mike's Camry, right? It was like 16 hours. It was horrible. I get there, and Igor has a booth, and he's selling Alexey Voevoda training videos. But they're not on VHS. They're on like beta or some shit, right? Like, I'm like, yo, we can't buy this. We don't got this thing. But so I wanted to watch one of them right then and there and be like, who is this guy? Like, this is who I want to be. This is exactly who I want to be. I do not want to be John Brzezinski, where I beat everybody, but no one really knows. And everyone says, man, that's crazy. No, I want to be like, if anyone asks you who the best arm wrestler is, that's the guy right there. That guy from West Virginia. That's the dude. And, you know, if you had a VHS tape of you on the cover, come on. You was a bad dude.
Yeah.
I mean.
And he was on calendars. They had him on calendars. And I mean, they weren't playing games.
If you had a VHS tape with your face on it, there's no different than Back to the Future when you went to the video den on a Friday night. I mean, it's crazy, right? So I said, who is this guy? And Igor's like, oh, no, you know beats him, no chance. And I'm like, who are you? Who are you? And I'm like, man, listen. And this is on Tuesday, and I'm not arm wrestling until Saturday. He has no idea who I am. Igor doesn't. No idea, right? Nobody. So I go, so then it starts creeping up, and Igor finds out about pulling John slowly that week because they get on Alexey, they get on me, they get on you. You know, you even said it. Oh, Travis, you know, good arm wrestler.
I didn't think you'd made that. No, I didn't.
He's not ready for that smoke. And listen,
tell you what,
let me tell you the truth.
You were 5. No, I'm not 5. 2 years away, at least. I was shocked you made that. You didn't know,
right? Because what you didn't know was that Dave Randall has yoked me up by my fucking back of my head 9 months before that, and has created a ridiculous human being who is now absolutely even the playing field, and there is nothing except talent that separates us. Right? Not your chemical enhancement, not your years of service, none of that. It's all equal. Let's see what's up now. And so Igor, slowly, I can tell that I'm about to get beat up after school at 3 o'clock. Right? Now, I didn't know at 8 o'clock that I had smacked the bully's sister. Right? But that's what I had done by saying that I'm the guy. This ain't the guy. I'm the strongest guy here. Who is this guy? Not knowing who he was, having zero respect for the situation, you know, being comical the entire time has put a rather distasteful thing in the foreign contingent, right? Ingen's letting them all know how disrespectful I am because I done told Ingen, well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I already lost according to you guys. Well, you just watch, right? What happened? So, because I knew that I had just had Matt Gerdner and Dave Randall on top of my arm, and hey, this thing ain't moving. Like, and all you did was make me continue to train for another month after that, right? So, slowly Saturday comes, and my confidence is pretty awesome. Right?
Yeah.
And I finally just looked at the camera and said, I don't think he can beat me today, and walked away. Right? And then the tournament starts, and Greg Boyce. Greg just pulled Greg Boyce a year ago, 6 months, 8 months ago. Or I'd say a year before that. And he was as strong as a bull. Like, he would lock you up into that little hook, and you couldn't stop it. You know, you had to come down so far. So Greg Boyce was the reigning world champion because he had won the year before. He was another reason why I thought I could beat him. So I'm like, yo, I don't even know this Alexey guy. I can beat Boyce, right? But then I get there and there's a rec lay, and you know, all these, whatever. So the tournament starts, and I can tell that Alexey had never been around a person like me.
No. Definitely not.
And I'm also trying to make a movie, right? So last thing that the crazy kid from West Virginia would do would be to talk trash to the Russian phenom, dominant, whoever this guy is. And they had a good resume for him at that point. I guess he had won the Zloty for 3 years in a row. And
yeah, he's done really good. Yeah, he was the world champion in Finland in 2000. He was solid, mate.
Yeah, whatever the deal was. So, that entire situation to me happened because of Cleve Dean in that elevator. It's just, you just got to put all the pieces together and realize that Alexey had no chance that day.
But don't you think that just by chance, I honestly think that Pauline John caught like a beautiful moment, like a magnificent moment. And I'll tell you why. Because I spoke to you there after saying that, and you had blood on your fangs, dude. Like a mother. I mean, dripping. You wanted it bad, and you wouldn't take no for an answer. And Alexey Voevoda did not have that. And when you got in his face, I know, like you say, I'm making a film and all that. Yeah, but you were, but not really. You felt like that anyway.
Because of this information. It's because I've got information that you guys don't have.
Yeah.
Like, I know that if you would have been at the GNC and we'd have been doing what we normally do, you would have announced the tournament. You would have thought it was kind of impressive, whatever. But then we'd have went to the side table and you'd have been like, mate,
that's badass.
What you just did, that is not what you did up on the stage.
No.
And I'll tell you another thing. I could have did it to Dave Chafee at the World Championships. It's just for $10,000, I'm not willing to even do it. But I could have, at the end of 2016, just let Dave do whatever he wanted.
Mate,
it's one of those things where
jumping ahead, but that event there that day.
Hey, so this is good, right? Because you have some insight. So what I'm telling you is that day at the GNC in 2003 or whatever it was, before I pulled Alexey, I was as strong there as I have completely ever felt, ever. And it was because it had nothing to do with arm wrestling. It had to do with not being able to get him to get his hand off of my neck and telling me that he was my daddy. And I still, to this day, I mean, I love Dave Randall. I didn't have any problems with him even when he did it, except the fact that he could do it, and he was going to continue to think he could until he figured out he couldn't. So it was that was a good thing right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this second episode of some insight on the beast, Travis Bagent. And I think you'll agree, fascinating stuff, learning a great deal here. And if you're enjoying this, make sure, as I say, go back, check out episode 1. When we go to episode 3, I'm going to put the link to this episode in the description as well. We will be back with more from Travis very, very soon. We're just getting to where the beast was born, literally, just the opener. And there's a lot more to come. Just on a personal note, guys, hope you and your families are well. Strange times, and keep yourself safe. And we will see you again next time. Travis, see you again soon, brother.
Be good, guys.